Welcome to the Disruptors Creed podcast. I'm Kristen Zeman, and I'm honestly a little shocked you're here. In this episode, Chris and I are coming to you live from Chicago. Yes, in the same room, which is both thrilling and slightly dangerous. Over the next 30 minutes, we're talking about time, how to manage it, how to screw it up, and how to stop letting it own you. We'll get into morning routines, time blocking hacks, and why I spiral when there's nothing on my calendar. Chris calls me out. I pretend not to be offended. And somewhere in the middle, there's Botox, label makers, and a Twitch with its own origin story. If you've ever said, I just don't have time, this one's for you. Let's get into it. How you doing, intern? We're together.
I'm doing great. It's very weird that there's no wall between us,
Yeah.
so I feel like I'm very exposed.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you're sitting right next to me, which means I could
Hit me.
push you. Yeah, push you. I could use violence against you at any time if I feel like it. So we got to talk about something. We've been getting some inquiries about your disability. So first of all, it was a friend that we know reached out, and a stranger reached out and said, just out of love, what's going on with Chris's Twitch? He just twitched. You have your glasses on, so it's harder to see.
I actually wore them today. Maybe it wasn't so obvious.
Yeah. So let's talk about your ability. I don't know. Are you allowed to say disability?
No, I don't think so, because
Okay.
it's definitely,
You know what? You're handy capable. Let's talk about your Twitch, Chris.
it all came, I've had a Twitch since I was probably 9 or 10. Maybe probably even younger. My cousin Jeff used to make fun of me all the time. He's like, "What's wrong with your face?" But we were kids, and it just was what it was.
And it followed you to adulthood.
It did. It gets way worse when I'm tired or very stressed. So that's probably why it comes out
On these
a lot on these
you're
podcasts.
stressed.
Because
I stress you out?
No, because you undervalue. I was actually, I did child sex crimes for a long time at work, and I was interviewing a child, and halfway through the interview, the kid stops and looks at me and goes, "What's wrong with your face?" And I was like, "Oh," I didn't say any of the things I wanted to say back to him, but I was like, well, I have a Twitch. I've had it since I was a kid. So that was it. And
that wasn't the one that pushed you over the edge, though. Tell our listeners about the father of one of your victims.
I was talking to some parents of one of my victims, and I was twitching, and he thought I was hitting on him. He thought I was winking at him in this interview. And at that point,
that's when you sought medical attention.
I had to. I did also have a jury foreman call after one of my trials, and we won, and the victim and the suspect was found guilty. And he said to me, "I want you to know that we found you the most credible, even with the twitch in your face,
even with your disability. Don't worry. Am I violating HIPAA or FERPA?
Well, you have now. Definitely FERPA.
I think I violated.
But
that's okay.
So I went to the neurologist, and you went with me.
I went with,
and I'm going to let you tell that part of the story, because it was
my vantage point's way better.
It is.
Yeah.
And you're more, okay, let me rephrase it. Sometimes you tell a story better because of your animation.
Okay. Because I have a flair for the dramatic.
Right.
Well, Chris decided I need to seek medical attention because people are starting to notice my Twitch a lot, and it's affecting your job. Like, really, genuinely, people were calling you out on it. So we went to the neurologist. I went with you, and this neurologist he reminded me of a nutty professor kind of vibe, right?
He was 90.
He was probably an octogenarian. And we went into his office, and this is no exaggeration. You can back me up on this. There was not really a place to sit in this office, but stacked from floor to ceiling were books, just medical books. And he had you walk back and forth. He did all these things, and he, kind of did the finger, you followed him. And so he did a whole bunch of physical tests that were pretty easy. And then he said, "Okay, I think I know what it is." And he climbs up to find a book. He says, first, it's either a brain tumor or it's some sort of, it was a really long name for basically a benign twitch, right? And then he pulled off this medical book and he was like, oh, here it is. And blew the dust off of it, flipped to a page, and he's like, or this is what I was thinking of. And it's this, all this is it's just a benign twitch. It's just a thing that comes.
It's a twitch.
That's all it is. In order. So
and
I was like,
it's getting worse as you speak of it because I can feel it.
So I said, wait, so you're telling me it's either a brain tumor or a nothing burger, right? And he's like, yeah, exactly. And I said, well, how do we determine if it's the brain tumor? So that's when he said that you have to go into an MRI machine and get your head scanned. That's a whole other story because of your other ailment.
That's not what we're talking
your
about.
Your other ailment that I'll disclose, that you are claustrophobic as hell, and you have to get knocked out. So that panic, that made you twitch even more. I said, all right, if it's not a brain tumor, then what is, like, how do you fix a twitch? And he said, actually, Botox can help with a twitch. And I said, hold on, sir. You're telling me that she can get Botox because of a twitch on one side of her face and like insurance pays for it? And he's like, yeah, it's actually, it kind of what slows down the muscles or whatever.
Paralyzes them.
Paralyzes the muscles. So at that point, I started twitching, like on purpose, like to try to get him to diagnose me. I did it like both eyes because I was trying to get some Botox, but that didn't work. So friends, thank you for reaching out and for your concern about my intern, Chris. But you're fine. You just have a little quirk, a little twitch that everyone noticed. This also reminds me of a story before we get into our topic. I will be very quick about this, but during the mass shooting in our city, I was put on camera. So standing at the podium, and of course, CNN, Fox, all the national news entities see me on television during this press conference. And the police department got inundated with emails and phone calls to our admin assistant, shout out to Kelly, because there was a lump on my throat that when I talked, people noticed. People would write in, and the subject line of their email would be all caps, "You have cancer." And I was like, what is going on? And Kelly was so funny because she's the one who was having to field these phone calls. She's like, I'm really sick of people writing in and calling me about the lump on your neck. Can you please go get this checked out? So I did, and I had a biopsy of it, and it was, it actually turned out to be a peanut butter M&M that was just stuck. No, that's a lie. It was actually it was a cyst.
It was just a fluid-filled cyst.
But people are so sweet and kind, so they were concerned about you. So you felt the love from our listeners. So thank you, listeners.
Now, if the listeners could start writing to her about that effect, that I'm not an intern, that would be great.
Well, but you are an intern. That would be not factual. I'm traveling with my intern. We're in the city of Chicago. This is a beautiful city. Oh my gosh.
You know what? It actually ties into what you wrote about this week because, you wrote, we had somebody write in and asked if you could touch on time management. And so we've been here for the week watching our grandson.
No, watching our daughter's son.
Right. Watching our daughter's son. I don't like to call him our
grandson because then people automatically want to call us grandma, and I'm not.
We're not about that.
So watching our daughter's son, our daughter's child.
Yes.
Who we love very much. He's my favorite.
Yeah. It did give me insight into time management because
you don't have any time.
Well, yeah, because it reminded me of when our kids were little. Like, we had no time for anything. So he's going to be 4 months old next week. And I found that you had to leave for 3 days to go speak in Colorado. So I was alone with this child who I love dearly, but I couldn't even take a shower. So like I had to have people come over to hold him. And I'm like, can I please just get a workout in and take a shower? Like my time management was terrible for the entire week. And I thought my only thought was I was so grateful you were not there because you freak out when you don't have every second of every minute scheduled.
Yeah. What started this conversation was, of course, the listener who wrote in, and I thought, gosh, how do I tackle this? Because this is it's actually one of my greatest strengths and my greatest weaknesses, time management. But the problem with me is that when I look at the calendar and I see something blank on the calendar, or a day where I have no appointments, or I'm not traveling, I don't have a Zoom, or I don't have something to do, I go into absolute panic mode. Like, I need to have my calendar filled.
And I find happiness, and that actually fills my soul.
Yeah. A lot of people, I'm sure, are like you, where they look at a day and they're like, oh my gosh, I have absolutely nothing. So it's not, we have to kind of peel the onion layers back to this. It's not that I want to be busy. It's that when I don't have something planned, I'm not good with uncommitted time. When left to my own devices, I start to
No, that's true.
twitch.
Twitch.
No, I start to panic. I'm like, what are we going to do today? And so I will then, and this also ties into like boredom, right? Where I always tell people, if you are bored, then you have a lack of imagination.
Yeah.
There's so many things that you can do. Go be one with nature, read a book, create something. I don't know, whatever. So, but boredom, or when uncommitted time sets in for me, I tend to, as you know, I will label all the spices. I will pull them out. I will go, oh my gosh, the spice racks are not alphabetized, and I will start alphabetizing them, and I will label them the day that.
Which I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
Except you try to make me get involved.
Well, because I think it's a nice team building.
Well,
for my intern and I.
I should have known. We leave these jobs.
Yeah.
And we had high pressure jobs, did a lot of things. And we get to Naples, and I am so happy. Yeah. We are floating in the pool. We are listening to podcasts. Like, after I get out of the pool, I take a quick shower. We've already worked out. I'm going to go buy dinner to see what we want to make every day. I am so happy that I finally just...
You mean you're going to go buy groceries?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm so happy that I finally have a moment not scheduled by somebody else. To which, in response, you get up out of the pool and you look at me and you say, I need to get the fuck out of here. I'm going to go crazy. I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't live here. I'm leaving. And you leave.
Well, I didn't leave.
But you left the pool.
Oh, I went the pool area. That was super dramatic. I walked out of the pool area.
But you don't know. You were mad.
I just said, oh my gosh.
No, you didn't say it like that.
No, I had inside my head, I was like, this is it. We're just going to float around the pool every day. Is this all there is?
And I said, yes. I'm so happy.
And you were so happy. And I seriously, I felt like the walls were closing in on me.
So, but which is good, because it's led you now to in your words, second mountain, where you're
doing stuff.
Yeah, but you're finding purpose. And that's for you, I've always felt like it's been different. Like, you have to have this purpose. And not that I don't have purpose, because I absolutely do. We just want different things. And I think they actually go together well, because if I wanted everything that you did, who would take care of the stuff at home? Like, that's my job. I love doing the things that I get to do, but you have to have this purpose. So it was kind of cool, because all of a sudden now you're going to speak for the first time outside of being in law enforcement. And that just compounded into more and more speaking engagements. And you love it. You're going around and you're talking to people and you're changing the world.
Yeah. So I was trying to figure out, how to be helpful in this conversation. And I know that I am helpful when it comes to time management, because I really do. I'm locked in. I'm dialed in when it comes to time management.
Oh my God. I get like 75 alerts in my calendar every day. Kristen's scheduled a workout.
Because we share a calendar. And so those alerts. So this is the advice that I would give to people, is if it's not on your calendar, it doesn't happen. So what I do is in the morning, and I think that people say that like morning routines are stupid, or, it's like you hear that in the bro podcast space, like everybody's got a morning routine and you share your morning routine. And here's the thing. It turns out morning routines are actually amazing.
I think they're great.
And they set the tone for the day. As you know, one of the first things I like to do, based on that general, I forgot his name, that told us to make your bed first thing in the morning and you feel a sense of accomplishment.
It doesn't help though when I'm still in it and you're making it.
Yeah, because it's just time to get up.
Apparently.
It's time to get up.
I've been told that.
My morning routine is and it's taken me a while not being employed like at the police department, but being self-employed, where I can now, when I'm not traveling, I can make my own hours. And what I've recognized, that the first thing that I do is get that cup of coffee and I go right into focused work. I am the best. I write I have the most clarity in the morning when I can build a keynote for my next talk. And because I like to curate that keynote for the audience, specific to them, right? And I do a lot of thinking. So that's my focus time. But for other people, maybe you're not a morning person. You might be more of a night person. And so what I would suggest people do is to figure out when they are at their best. Now, I can hear people saying, well, this is all fine and good. You have time because you're not working full time. But hey guys, I did that for 30 years. I worked for 30 years. I did the thing. I had little kids and we met, and then kids multiplied from 2 to 4 for each of us. So we've done the thing. And what I would do, and this was uncomfortable and you're not going to like this, but that morning time was my sanctuary time where I would set the alarm early. And when my kids were babies, I would get up and I would go down on the treadmill and just get my workout in. And then I would journal for a little bit. And then they woke up, and it's early. I had to get up sometimes at 4:30 just to do that. So I could get them off to daycare and then go to work, and be at work by 8. So getting up that early was difficult, but it was also my sanity. It set the tone for the day. So these aren't things that you want to hear, but you cannot make excuses that you don't have enough time if you are not prioritizing the things that are important. So that's the way that I do it. I literally schedule everything. You're a little different. I mean, how do you?
I am, but I also have a morning routine because for me, like when I get up, I usually am up by a little before 7 every morning. I wish I could sleep longer, but I just don't. I am out the door right away. Whether it's I'm going to work out or no matter whatever I have to do. Once I wake up, I'm up and out. I don't want to sit around, and I don't drink coffee. So
Which is one of your greatest flaws.
but it drives me crazy to like when I know I want to get up and get a workout in, because my biggest point, my biggest thing every day is wake up, get a workout in. Once I get my workout in, the rest of the day, I can kind of figure it out as I go along. If I'm teaching a class, then I know I have to I always carve out a couple of hours to grade papers and interact with my students. I love the fact that we are retired now. So every day I like to go to the grocery store and buy fresh food because that's what I want to cook for us for dinner. So I really like having that routine, but mine's so different than yours because in the morning, that's your creative time. That's when you sit quiet. You need to be left alone. You drink your coffee, you create. And I just want to get up and get moving right away because the faster I get moving, the better my day goes.
Yeah, two different types of like where you want to be physical immediately, where I need to have more focused work during that time. So it's really an individual thing. But I think the point is not your routine. It's not when you do it. It's that you do it.
It's that you have one.
Yes, because I would say this to challenge some people. If I followed you around for a day, what would your actions tell me about what your goals are or what your priorities are? It's how you spend your time reveals what you're chasing or what you're avoiding. And by that, what I mean is what you're chasing, your goals. Everyone can set a goal. That's the easiest thing in the world to do. I want to open up my own business. I want to get promoted. I want to go back to school. That's a goal. I want to get healthy. That's one we use all the time because it's the easiest example. Goals are easy to set. It's the structure that you put into your day every single day. It is the work that you do every single day that gets you closer to that goal. And that's why I say, if I followed you around for a day, that would tell me whether you're actually pursuing your goals or avoiding them. Because, and I say avoiding because this is a big one. Sometimes people know what to do, they just don't do it.
Right.
So it's simple, but it's not easy. And to use the easiest example in the world is at 5 a.m. when you know that you should get up before everyone else and get your workout in because that will set the tone for the day. That will check off a big box. You're tired and you're warm inside your bed and you don't do it. What are you avoiding? Pain and discomfort.
Well, and I think that like it reminds me because we had this talk a long time ago because we talked about how, building confidence and building resilience in yourself. And you talked about how building confidence is keeping promises to yourself, right? So that's where it became really intentional for me, that I knew that I promised myself every day. And for me, it's always a workout because that's where it
Your
really,
priority.
well, it's a priority for me because when I was doing the job, when I was back in the job, the things that I saw and dealt with every day, I needed an outlet. So that was my time to decompress my brain, to let go of the stuff that I had gone through that day and to kind of restart. So for me, it's always been so important, but it did come to that where like in the beginning, I was like, I'm not sure if I can do this. And then every day I would promise myself, you know what, you're going to get up tomorrow morning and you're going to do it. And every day that I did it, I felt better and stronger and more confident that I could maintain this as a routine and a habit. And that's what it became. The days that I was unable to get up and start my day that way, because whether I got called out that night or I had to get in early because something that had happened, I just didn't feel the same. I didn't feel as energized. I didn't feel as good. I needed to keep my routine because that kept me on track for the rest of the day.
It's bigger than that. It's actually bigger than that. And this is what I talk about in my Optimize with Optimism, optimizing performance, is that building structures in your life actually builds resilience. And so that workout in the morning or whatever that thing that is for you that builds your resilience for when things go wrong, when you get to work and you have to start putting out fires or you have to start working on child sex abuse cases in your case, whatever it may look like for you, the structures that you build in your life actually keep you standing, keep you stronger in those moments when the things happen that are out of your control. So this is kind of my point, is what do you prioritize in your life? And people say that I don't have time to do these things that you say I should do. And my rebuttal to that is you're the one holding the calendar. It's the prioritizing that is where you're falling short. So I did a little research on time management, and I really didn't have a name for what I do, but I figured out that it's called the time blocking method. And so you can take this or leave it. It's from a productivity expert by the name of Cal Newport. And it's about blocking chunks of your day for what matters most. So basically where you say, for me, like that whole idea of creative work. And by the way, creative work could be your actual job that you're going to, or it could be something that you're doing outside of your job. But that time for creative work is the time that you have. So maybe it's 8 to 5. That's your creative work that you're working at your job. It could also be something that you're striving for, maybe a side hustle, or maybe you're writing a book, maybe you're going back to school, or whatever that may be, which means that you might have to carve out some time maybe on your lunch or before you go to work. But then there's other parts in your life that you have to carve out time for. And what this research suggests is that this blocking method, you just put it into those kinds of blocks where they're human connection or family time, and you put that in the block. And that way it's like you're not necessarily structuring something so stringently, but it's like, hey, here's some family time. And that might be just sitting around watching a movie together, but that you block out these times for health and wellness and maybe some stillness and silence, some journaling or whatever that looks like. You put those blocks in your day and they are non-negotiable. You do those, and that means that you turn off all of your alerts. Don't go, I'm going to just check my email real quick. It's during this focused time of human connection. Maybe you're having dinner with a friend. You put all that crap aside. You're having family time. You put all that crap aside. Focused work. You're doing that thing and you're only focusing on that. But here's the key. It has to go on your calendar or somewhere where you can see that this is what I'm doing. And that is how you own your day, and your day won't own you.
I do recall a time where I actually had to send you a calendar invite to say, can we please spend time together?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because you were so busy when you've had your full day. Grab some popcorn, watch a movie, or just watch whatever show we're watching. But it's just our time. It's just quiet time that we don't get. And you were so consumed with the presentation you were putting together that you were working day and night. And so I finally had to send you a calendar invite to say,
I got the message.
Can we please, but I think that that's part of it too, right? When you get going so much and you're blocking all this time, you can't ignore how important human connection is and how taking that time to, especially in a lot of people, their jobs are so busy and you're so overstimulated all day that you have to block out a time to just decompress. And whether it's with a group of friends, whether it's with your partner, whether it's with your children, or even by yourself where you don't have a scheduled task to do.
And by the way, this has taken me a long time to figure this out. And I've actually now started
you're still
blocking.
working at
I'm
it.
still working at it, but I am now feel when I get to a point where I can enjoy myself and just like float around in the pool, right? Or, or binge watch some of our favorite shows. It's always something that I feel like I have to earn. I have to make sure that I've done all the things. And this is what we've told the kids for years. Do what you have to do so you can do what you want to do. And so what I've often thought is that you have to earn that free time. I still feel that way for me, but I also know that there is something to leisure time, to do nothing. And there are on some Sundays where I'm like, you know what, where maybe we'll get invited to places where I'm like, you know what, I'm going to do absolutely nothing today. I am going to float around the pool, or I'm going to just sit on the sofa and we're going to binge watch, you know? And I do think that is important because when you work so hard, it's actually good to give yourself some kind of brain numbing time to just do nothing and to be frivolous with it. And so here, these are just a few ideas that you can use. And one is to tackle the big rocks first, the things that you have to get done. Focus on those, getting those done as early in the day as you possibly can. And those are things like your workout where you're like, I'll work out after I get home. And you know what happens after that. At least that's what happened to me.
You're tired.
There's no way. I'm about to collapse after a long day at work. And then, get the kids and get dinner. And it's like, there's no way that I'm even finding any bandwidth for myself. So big rocks first. Tackle those big things that you have to get done. That's the do what you have to do so you can do what you want to do. And then if your day gets hijacked from you, you can say, hey, I got these done. The other piece of advice I would give is we talk about morning routines, but the best way to have a great morning, quite frankly, is to have a good night before, which means, friends, listeners, disruptors, put your stupid phone away and don't look at it before you go to bed, because bedtime looks a lot like this for people. They're just watching TV and then they get caught up in another show and they're like, oh, I'll just watch one more. It's the cliffhanger. So, and how Netflix does, it's like automatically starts the next show. And so if you actually intentionally turn that crap off an hour before you go to bed, man, just turn on some music, light a candle, drink some tea, read a little bit, just be quiet and don't look at your phone. Don't start scrolling at your funny Insta reels, because that's a dopamine hit and you just keep scrolling and you find something funny and you keep going. And pretty soon you look at the clock and you're like, damn it, I wanted to go to bed at 10. And now it's, almost midnight and you've been scrolling. So just keep that in mind too, is that your day actually starts the night before you go to bed. And I'll fight anybody that says otherwise, because that's really what inhibits us. When we stay up too late, then our alarm goes off and we're like, man, I don't feel like it.
Even when we were still working, bedtime really was non-negotiable.
Yeah, for sure.
For us. And now it didn't mean that every once in a while we didn't stay up past that time because something with the kids or something was going on and we had to, but the majority of time, bedtime was non-negotiable, because we knew that if we didn't sleep the next day, we weren't going to be productive. And I used to struggle being a detective and carrying a big caseload, where I would go in. I used to do it before I left work, and then I had to stop because I couldn't relax at home. First thing in the morning, and when I would get in, I would make a list of the most important interviews I had to do, of the tasks that I had to get done just that day. And that way I could go through and check them off and know that I got them done. And then if something came up and my day got hijacked, then I dealt with that. And I would go back to my list the next morning because I had that to get done. But it helped me because organization is not my strong suit. It's yours. It is not mine.
Yeah, I will build charts and graphs and Excel sheets and to-do lists.
Everything in my house is labeled. I know.
I love all that.
If you come to my house and you empty my dishwasher, all you have to do is open a cabinet and it will tell you bowls, plates, spoons. It doesn't matter. She labels everything.
Yeah. It was Abraham Lincoln that said, if I was going to cut down a tree, I would spend hours sharpening the saw. Like, that's what I like to do. I like to really get things like into a structure mode where I'm like, boom, I know exactly what I have to do when I wake up. I know what my tasks are. That's also, it's like this sense of purpose of like, I really do like to wake up in the morning knowing that I have things to do. And so that's just that's also part of my flaw, right? It's like if I wake up and there's nothing on the calendar, I will absolutely freak out. And pretty soon a contractor will ring the doorbell and you'll go, who's that? At 3 a.m, I just felt like redoing the kitchen, and and then pretty soon we're ripping the kitchen out so I am dangerous when I'm left on.
Yeah, because then you actually create tasks for me.
That's right.
Which I think you should schedule every minute of every day for you. So that way you're not alone to make projects for me.
Yeah. Well, so I think to bring this all home, that it's called intentional time use is really what we're moving towards here. In the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people who align their daily activities with their core values report significantly higher life satisfaction. And so I read that and I thought that was so interesting. And that basically goes into that blocking method is like, here is what's important to me. Here are the goals I'm trying to achieve. Here are the human connections that I want to sustain. And they are so important. And so that's what all that means. Your values should account for the time that you use. Otherwise, time will be managing you. And I have found that when I follow this time blocking method, I actually feel like I control time. And there's a name for that. It's called time affluent. And it came out of UCLA. And basically, what that means is that you feel like I have done the things that I needed to do in order to achieve my goals or things that are aligned with my values. And it improves our physical health and our happiness. It lowers our anxiety. And of course, it doesn't mean endless leisure. It means that you feel like you have enough time for what matters. And I think that's what this is all about. It's not about quantity, because we all know those people. They're so busy. And it's like, that's a badge of honor. Like, I'm so busy. I'm so busy.
But they're not.
But they're not. It's about it to me, it's not about quantity, it's about control. And again, being in alignment with your values. So
you hit it. If you actually followed your day and recorded yourself all day, you do have time.
There's a lot of time wasting.
There is never, I mean, I've been busy, you've been busy. There's never been a day where I could physically say, well, I just didn't have time.
Yeah, there's a lot of time
Because if
wasters.
I looked back, I was texting or I was playing a game on my phone or I was scrolling through social media. There is always time.
And listen, you will get derailed. There are those
Without a
days
doubt.
where in the middle of focused work where my little ADD sets in or my computer pings or, I get a little Instagram dopamine ping and then I find myself scrolling. So I absolutely get derailed, but I course correct very quickly.
But you also set out a time,
Mhm.
and that's what I liked, because when you were writing your book, you set out a time where if you worked for this long,
Yep.
then you allowed yourself 15 minutes
Yeah.
to scroll, to
Yeah.
give your brain
be
some
mindless.
relaxation, to not think and to not be so focused.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the lesson here, disruptors, is this. If time keeps slipping through your fingers like sand, then maybe it's because you haven't built the container to hold it. And I really genuinely believe that you don't need more time. You need better boundaries. And for sure, we can't make more time, but we absolutely can make time for what matters by ruthlessly eliminating what doesn't.
Cheers.
Cheers to that. All right. Well, keep on disrupting, my fellow disruptors. Until next time. Twitchy, do you want to say goodbye?
Goodbye.
Oh my gosh, that's like bullying? Is that I'm bullying a person with a disability?
You are. And actually, right now, you're not making time for what's a priority, which is we're in Chicago.
We're going to go.
So
We're going shopping on Michigan Avenue.
Yeah.
You said, I'm going to go shopping on Michigan Avenue, but I'm not going to buy anything.
Correct.
And that is the most confusing sentence I have ever heard. All right. Peace out, everyone. Until next time.
See you next week.
And that's a wrap on this week's episode of the Disruptors Creed, where we don't do average, and we sure as hell don't do status quo. It's produced by me, Kristen Zeman, because I like to be in control of everything. Musical score is by Ethan Reardon and Jake Zeman, because talent runs deep in this gene pool. If you like what you heard, do that thing. Click subscribe, like, follow, or whatever button keeps this chaos flowing into your ears. And if you didn't like it, you probably need it more than you think. Head over to KristenZeman.com and sign up for my weekly brain droppings, where I dump thoughts, disrupt your thinking, and hopefully light a fire under your ass. All conveniently delivered to your inbox every Monday. You're welcome. Now go out there and cause some good trouble. Until next time, keep on disrupting, my fellow disruptors. Onward and upward.